Hey guys, welcome back. This is WC here doing another video episode of Growing for Freedom. And I know in the previous video episode I was talking about doing our next update from the other vertical garden, the one that's a little bit further along, or I should say a lot more further along than this garden. But as it turns out, I had some things that I had to do last night. I didn't have a chance to make the video and I overslept this morning. And as it stands right now, guys, the lights are actually off in that garden, and I don't think that you guys are probably too interested in doing a nighttime video. They're just really not that great. So we will wait for the lights to turn back on and do that update here a little bit later. So I figured in the meantime, we might as well just do another video update from the vertical that we still currently have in the veg cycle. So we had just done an update here 2 or 3 days ago, and you can see the plants have gotten a little bit larger. Maybe not a huge degree, I don't know. I'd have to look at the video to really tell. It's difficult for me because I'm in here every day, so the plants pretty much just look the same to me. But we do have all the lights now running in full 1040 watt mode across the board, so we are definitely trying to get as much fast growth from these plants as we possibly can, since we are planning on putting them into bloom here in about 48 hours. So I'm thinking that Monday morning at 10 a.m. or whatever will be the first lights off for these plants. So that still gives us a pretty good amount of time to just really pound out the veg, get the plants as girthy as possible, and maybe get them worked through the trellis a little bit more, because at this point I've not really gotten the plants big enough to work through the second level at all. But I can tell just by the overall girthiness and condition of the plants that once they go into bloom, they're going to stretch a lot. We should be able to, if we can't do it during veg, we'll be able to do a lot of great trellis work as the bloom cycle begins, the first couple of weeks or so. But generally speaking, after that, you really just want to get the plants more or less where they're going to be. I mean, obviously you're going to do some additional branch work here and there, but it's really just a focus of branch removal, making sure that you're removing all the stuff off the backside that's going to have absolutely no chance of making its way towards the lights. So the real thing that I want to focus on at this point is that the plants, or I want to see the plants get a little bit drier, because I do want to get the remainder of this reservoir pumped directly into the plants, so that way I can have their heavy 16 bloom-based nutrients ready to go as they start bloom. I don't want to keep feeding them this regimen that they're on now, although if I had to, it wouldn't be that bad. Aquaflakes obviously is a universal base that can be used in both bloom and veg, but I do have that Soul Synthetics Grow N in there, which is obviously a very strong nitrogen booster, which is something I kind of want to cut down on as I start my my 12-12. So spending a little more time, or I should say I want to spend a little bit of time addressing a couple comments and observations that I've made from other people doing verticals kind of like this one. First off is, and I've been told this or asked this before, why I don't put a bunch of plants just all over the floor to use up all of this wasted space that's been referred to. And I think there's some people that kind of answer their own question with this, but it comes, it's really related to two things. Firstly is that the light down here really isn't that good. If I go down there, and actually show you, and I probably actually could just come in here, directly below these lights, you can see that the lighting is, not really all that. The filaments are all along the sides. That's where the majority of the light comes from. But when you come down here, there's really not that much great light. And between the bulbs like this, probably a little bit better. But then I will sacrifice pretty much my entire ability to get into this section of the garden. And it's also going to make it very difficult, if not impossible, for me to use any kind of vortex or Honeywell fan if I ever do want to upgrade to something like that, in place of the the floor standing fan that I'm using now, which I really don't think is that best suited for this configuration. Obviously having four floor mounted upward facing circular fans would probably be the best way to cool these lights and to keep the air circulating through this room. I could, if I wanted to, put plants all along the perimeter down here. But again, these lamps might have to be raised at some point to accommodate these plants. You never quite know. And if the plants are getting light starved, you're going to start seeing some problems with those plants. Their immune system becomes weaker. They just don't do as well. Plants that don't get a lot of light as they go into bloom, they just get real shitty. And I don't want to deal with that. Especially considering the fact that just having these 18 7-gallon plants in here alone requires me at times to exhaust the entire contents of this 40-gallon reservoir to water them all if they are in need of water a lot. Now, if I add all these additional plants, not even a 55-gallon reservoir would probably be enough to water them. So I'd have to get dual reservoirs. It's more of a pain in the ass to deal with all that shit. Not to mention those plants are not going to be nearly as easy to access as the ones along the exterior. And one thing about the vertical garden, and really with gardens in general, is that I'm really a big proponent of ergonomics. You know what I'm saying? I want my gardens to be places that are really easy to work, and very inviting. That's probably the most important thing. Knowing that I'll go into this garden and everything is going to be really easy to do. Whether it be doing pH adjustments, and I keep the water constantly circulating so that way I can just drop nutrients in, drop pH in, and not have to do anything. The water will self-stir, and then just check it in a couple minutes and, check all my settings, and it's really easy. We got the pH meters right there on hand. All the plants are 100% accessible from front to back, and I can manipulate them pretty much in any way that I want to. And I want to have those features in pretty much all of my gardens if I can get them, and that's one of the big things about this vertical implementation that I really liked, is the fact that I have, such a great hands-on approach. I don't ever feel that I'm crawling into cramped spaces and, having to deal with bullshit. This is actually a really great garden to work on. I think that the only drawback to the garden, in and of its design, is the lighting itself. It is very bright in here. You do have to have some really good eye protection to work in this garden, especially for prolonged periods of time. And it is a little bit of a pain in the ass. Honestly, it's something that was a little bit unanticipated. But aside from that, everything else is just an absolute dream. And I've been watching Big Dan's videos. He's doing a vertical as well. And I don't want to get into doing a full-blown critique of that garden. There are a lot of issues there, and he's aware of them. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't need me to tell him what's going on. But one of the things I will say about that garden that it lacks compared to this one, is that, complete flow of design. The ability just to get wherever you want. You never feel cramped. You have full control to manipulate the plants any way that you want to. And, he does have some issues with light. There's not enough, and that's, I think part of some of the issues why it's not filling in quite the way you'd like, and some other things. Again, I don't want to get into a critique, but, and these are things I have to improve as well. That's why I've been debating adding a 5th 1,000 watt light to round this system out. And I think he's, going to pretty much quit doing vertical at this point. And I felt the same way early on. But, here we are at our 5th attempt doing this on a 4K scale. And, only now do I really think that we're going to put forth the kind of results that all of you guys watching at home would be expecting for a vertical setup such as this. Where you always associate verticals with big yields. But there's been a lot of problems, obviously with DWC not working out quite the way we expected, and even the first Cocoa Grow implementation was not quite perfect. But this is one that we've been planning for, and I think we've taken a culmination of all the knowledge learned from our failures to apply to a grow that's finally going to at least show us the types of results we can expect. I think that this grow, whether it be really incredible or not so much, is going to give us a good average expectation. If we were to continue to do things this way over and over again, we're going to probably do right around as good as what this garden you guys are about to watch is going to do. And that's important, especially for all you guys watching at home, because there might be some of you guys that are on the fence about doing a setup like this one. And like I've mentioned in previous videos, there's a ton of upside with very little downside. Well, there's some downside. Obviously this consumes a lot more space. Working with the lights, can be a little bit difficult. There are little things here and there, but if this thing does produce what I think it possibly can, then it will all be worth it. But we're 9-10 weeks away from seeing that. So the best we can do is just push forward, do the best work that we can, and just sit back and see what happens. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. The next video update, we will definitely be going back to the other vertical when the lights are on, so you guys can check the progress of those SFVOGs, which are obviously much more further along than these. And that'll be coming up either later on today or tomorrow or something like that. We'll get to it. We don't want to keep you guys waiting too long, but as always, I do appreciate you guys taking the time to watch my videos, and I will see you all next time.